Hello YouTube, my name is Paul. I hope you're all keeping well. I'm back today then with part 4 of my collection videos, and this one is the most nostalgic of them all. And this one is the Sinclair ZX Spectrum collection. A machine I was first introduced to back in 1984 when a good friend of mine at primary school had one. She had the 48K rubber key variant. I always remember his setup because he had an interface 2 which you could use to plug in a joystick. Without an interface you had to use the keyboard. He also had the first and only ROM cartridge I'd ever seen on a Spectrum. One of the Horace games I think it was, but I can't remember. And a really obscure submarine game called Submarine Strike. But yeah, a bit different. My auntie also had one, which again, a very similar model, 48K rubber key. I used to stay there a hell of a lot. She had some fantastic games like Manic Miner, for example, or Penetrator. I think she had That's the Spirit. I'm trying to think, well, she had Rambo First Blood Part 2, Blue Max, and a few others. Cookie was another one I used to love playing. But I used to play on the system so much I ended up breaking it. I think they were quite easy to overheat, so I managed to do that and managed to cock the keys up so I could no longer play on the Spectrum that she had. I don't think she ever knew who broke it, but it was me. The first Spectrum I ever had myself was in 1986. I had the Spectrum 48K Plus model, which was this one here. Not the exact one, but that model is the one I had. I remember being so excited in getting it. Like, I knew I was getting one for Christmas Eve, so I think I badgered the hell out of my mum to tell me. So she said I'm getting one, and that was it then. Sleepless nights and anxiety and all the rest of it. When it actually came to Christmas Day and opening it up, I was bloody ill. So I opened it up and I was bedridden. So yeah, there was me and a Spectrum by my side. I couldn't do anything about it because I was just too weak and tired to do anything. It was strange as well that year because I remember my dad getting out the Black & Decker workbench to put my Spectrum on. So it's the first time I've ever seen a Black & Decker workbench and a computer side by side. So yeah, bit of a strange one that. But anyway, that year I remember playing some fantastic games which my dad had copied for me by a friend of his, who in fact was a bloody priest. But anyway, yeah, so some fantastic titles there. Games like Eddie Kidd's Stuntman, I think there was one of them. Turbo Esprit, or something like that. But that one never loaded because the title screen would come up and it would crash every single time, so I couldn't actually play that one. Daley Thompson's Decathlon was another one I remember playing a lot of. Christ, my memory doesn't serve me very well today. Anyway, I'm going to take you through the machines I do have. I have 3 left. I used to have a lot more. My ZX81 packed up, my rubber key packed up, 48K, and my Plus 3 had a sound issue, which apparently earlier revisions of the Plus 3 did have sound issues, and it's the one I bloody well had. So not a particularly great advert for Sinclair Spectrum machines, but I'll go through the 3 I've got left. So I'll see you in a minute. Well, here they are, the last remaining 3 Spectrums I have in the collection. Like I said previously, I did have a Sinclair Spectrum Plus 3, which was the floppy disk variant. Unfortunately, the sound was corrupt and I ended up selling it as spares and repairs a couple of months ago. My 48K rubber key also stopped working, so that ended up going to the same place that my aunties went, which was the bin. But yeah, I had a ZX81, which I know is not a Spectrum range, but I did have a ZX81. And I've had a Plus 2A as well at some point, which is the black variant of the machine you can see directly in front. So my own personal journey on the ZX Spectrum was, began with this model here, which was the 48K Plus, which kind of like a packaged 48K rubber key, really. Just got a different case, different keyboard. But essentially the machine is exactly the same. There are differences in terms of like the ports etc. But like I said before, you probably find more detail on the specs and stuff on a different video. This is just a collection video, so I'm just going to show you what I got. So I got this original model in 1986. I had it for about a year before selling it on to a good friend of mine, and used the funds to then buy myself my Plus 2A. This I picked up on eBay probably about 16-17 years ago for about 30 quid. Lovely condition, really pleased to have it. I think it's complete. I think it's got all the innards in it and the books and the welcome cassette, etc. But yeah, a really nice piece of kit. Then the ZX Spectrum 128K Plus, which is roughly the same to look at as the one I just showed you there, but it's got a beast of a heatsink strapped on the side down the right hand side. But this one was technically more proficient because it had the AY chipset, which was similar to the CPC range, or Amstrad CPC range, and the Atari ST. 128K of RAM as well. So yeah, it was a beefed up Sinclair Spectrum basically. Kind of a similar package. This time red as opposed to black. I think they came with an interface, and I think they came with a free game as well. Unfortunately, I didn't get that in mine because I picked this up from a pawn shop, and not that kind of pawn shop, for 20 quid, which I thought was a bit of a bargain, but that would have been about 18 years ago, from somewhere up in Wales when I was living up there. So yeah, really lovely condition. I do like this machine. It's my favourite Sinclair Spectrum. Yeah, kind of a brutalist design about it. Bit of damage there to the heatsink, but yeah, fully working. Really pleased with it. And this one here though, this Plus 2A, was my original from 1987. Well, about 75% of it is my original. So basically what happened with that is I got my 48K Plus, I sold that to my brother, used the funds to get my Plus 2A. I say that again, my Sinclair Spectrum Plus 2, it's not a Plus 2A, that's the black one. But yeah, so my brother then had it for a couple of years. I think he took it to my cousins. I saw it at my cousins, asked my brother to go and get it for me, which he did. He brought it home, and unfortunately it didn't work. So my friend got hold of a very similar machine. I took the keyboard and tape deck out of it, replaced it and put it in there. Hence you can probably see the difference in colour, as the keyboard is a lot better condition than my original case. So we ended up getting a working Plus 2 again, which was fantastic because not only was this my original machine and the only machine I have in my collection that was actually mine, it started my retro journey really. So sort of 1994, there's a newsagent around where I lived which sold Hit Squad games for the Spectrum and the Commodore, etc., and some Kicks games. So I used to go over there and buy anything he had basically. So within sort of a year I had about 50 games for the system. Because all my original games, unfortunately, were long gone. So yeah, it was the beginning of my collection, really. Subsequently, it's all been sold on since, though, unfortunately, except for this very computer, which is the only sort of remaining machine I have left from brand new. And behind it, I've got a really nice condition version of the same machine there. Unfortunately it's still in the box, so I can't show you, but absolutely stonking condition. This is not the same pack I had, but it was quite similar. I'm sure it was a Curry's or Dixon's pack I got back in the day. The games all look very similar, but the bottom two cassettes, so of Ian Botham and whatever else was on those cassettes, I didn't have those, so I'm assuming it was a completely different pack. Joystick has got to be the most shit joystick I've ever used on the Spectrum. Absolute crap. It was very unresponsive, and my joystick of choice for the Spectrum, funny enough, was the Cheetah 128K, the Cheetah 125, which weren't bad, to be honest. Again, not a great joystick, but that's what I used. So that's the hardware, really. So I'm not going to go into any specs as per usual, but that's pretty much all I have left now, and that's all I probably intend to get. So see you in the next bit. Okay, on to the games. So I've got about 200 Spectrum games, all highly nostalgic. Some games, or most of the games I used to own. Some were owned by my friends. Some I would have seen in magazines, but all nostalgic nonetheless. So I'll quickly go through these. I'll show you some screenshots where possible, but like I said, it could take quite a while to go through them if I did it that way. But any specific games that I have a strong nostalgia to, or nostalgic feelings to, I will probably do an individual video on those games. So let's start off with the porn section then, just to get it out of the way. First up, Hungry Horace, followed by Penetrator. Decent shoot 'em up this. I've got 2 copies of this. One of them would have been my auntie's original copy. Which one I don't know. Sam Fox, Strip Poker. Would have been easier to pop downstairs, get a copy of your dad's Sun newspaper and just check that page 3, and better quality and all. Right, Horace and the Spiders. One of the 3 Horace games that I never played. I played the other 2, but not that one. Horace Goes Skiing. Then the classic Mastertronic budget games. So I remember buying these ones from the newsagents on the way home from school. SOS, Milk Race, Kickstart 2, Legend of the Amazon Woman, which I think was an actual, or Women, sorry, I think this was an actual full price release before it was released under the Mastertronic label. Rent a Kill Rita. Speed King 2, the classic Agent X2, well, more classic is number 1, isn't it really? Awesome soundtracks though for the beeper chip. Agent X, this was actually this and one other game, were the first 2 games I ever bought for my Spectrum, just after I recovered from my traumatic stress of opening up the Spectrum on Christmas Day. My good mate had this on his Commodore 16, classic game, part of the Magic Knight trilogy. Chiller, or Chiller I should say. Universal Hero. Old Clumsy Colin, Action Biker. Pippo. You'll see this all crashing down in a minute. Storm, a little bit of a Gauntlet clone there. Molecule Man. Sleep, or Z, whatever it's called. Again, I think one of my aunties, BMX Racer, or Racers. Show you a quick clown case. Match Day. And another very early title that I bought, Robot Messiah. Bit of a platformer, that one. Quite tough. Never understood this one actually. I don't think I could ever get it to load. Travel with Trashman. Sequel to the classic that is Trashman. This game here, the nostalgia for this stems from a very early Sinclair user magazine that I used to read in 1984. 2 years before I actually got my Spectrum. You can imagine why I was wired up on Christmas Day, couldn't you? Now this is one of my auntie's originals, Manic Miner. Now that game there I think was the first game I ever got probably addicted to, I think. So I got another duplicate there for some reason. The classic Chucky Egg. One of my neighbours had that on the Commodore 64. Chucky Egg 2. Now this series of games I never really played. Dizzy, or Fantasy World Dizzy. Dizzy Panic. I bought these with the intention to give them a go actually, but I know they're highly desirable kind of games on the Spectrum, aren't they? International Rugby Simulator. Oops, excuse me. The original Dizzy. It's a problem when you clean these cassettes up, isn't it? They get a bit slippery here. Grand Prix Simulator. BMX Simulator. They were classic games, made by Codemasters. Rockstar Ate My Hamster. Joe Blade 2. Joe Blade. Played this game for hours. Professional ski simulator. That was quite hard actually. Didn't realise I got so many duplicates. Pro skateboard simulator. One of Codemaster's infamous titles, wasn't it? The Pro Series. Super Stuntman. That was one of the most frustrating games ever. And quick snacks. A few of the full price releases. Ardidums. Arcadia. Jumping Jack. It's amazing to think this company was so was doing so well for its time, isn't it, with those sorts of releases. The classic Spectrum game, Feud. Krakatoa. That was quite a good game actually. Is it Tausetti or Tusetti? I can't really pronounce that one. Cosmic Cruiser. BC Bill. Zip Zap. Stonkers. I think that was one of the first strategy games I ever played. And Alchemist. Some of these games were released with gold labels. I'm not sure what the significance of that is, but Alchemist was one of those. That was. Now this game was a classic. This is one of those early games I got with my Spectrum. Fall Guy. Again, it wasn't an original that I had, but that was rock hard. Commando. Now this game was flaming hard. Airwolf. I hated it. One of the Magic Knight series, Spellbound. Another classic, Jet Set Willy. Now, I used to love this game, but I couldn't make head nor tail of it. Should have read the instructions really, shouldn't I? Firelord. One of the best shoot 'em ups of the day. On the Spectrum anyway. Iridium. The Commodore 64 version was immense. Ah, Submarine Strike. My old mate had this, so I thought I'd pick it up because it's quite a poor game, but very nostalgic. Beachhead. It should have been in the Palm section. Susha Super Gran. That was a bloody poor, that was. The program was absolutely crazy, wasn't it? I don't know if you used to watch that as a kid. I remember watching it. I think it was on the Christmas Eve before I got my Spectrum. The music's absolutely amazing if you listen to it now. League Challenge. I think the first football game, management game I ever owned on my Spectrum. I used to play that game there with the theme tune to Crockett. Is it Crockett's theme? Because that's what I used to do on Grandstand back in the day. We used to get the football scores up. Gambling, Sport of Kings. First ever played that on the Commodore 64. Quite an obscure little title there. It looks like, whatever that is, Football Director 2-player Super League records file. I haven't got a clue what that is. But the daddy of football manager games, Football Manager. I think that's a reissue of it. Daley Thompson's Super Test. Jet Set Willy 2. Not sure I've already done this one. I think I have. Magic Land Dizzy. Must have about 10 duplicates here so far. This was one of the best football management games on the Spectrum. I used to love this. Football Director. Now this was really good fun actually with multiple players. FA Cup. Football. Yeah, very random though. The classic School Days. And Back to School. Psst. Tick Attack. Cookie. Again, I think that's one of my aunties. Trans Am. Again, one of my aunties, I think. Jetpack. Classic game. Absolutely love that game. Lunar Jetman. Codename Matt. The classic Harrier attack. The final game in the Magic Knight trilogy, Night Time. Really good arcade adventures there, absolutely fantastic. Ghostbusters, I think that's the first game I ever heard speech in. Ah, what a classic this one is. One of the first beat 'em ups I ever played, The Way of the Exploding Fist. Classic game that is. Again, another game I think I played on my mate's Commodore 64, Rock and Wrestle. First gangster game, what a game this is. I think it's got like 6 screens. Muggsy, the man from old Detroit. He's in town. Donkey Kong, kind of reissued, smaller cassettes. I think this came out in 48K. This is the +2 version of it. Very similar to The Never-Ending Story. Nomad. Kong Strikes Back. Kong. Armageddon. I just love going to these restaurants. Mr. Wimpy. First film tie-in ever played. John Rambo. First Blood Part 2. Pogo. Transformers. I'm actually after a full Ocean set on the Sinclair Spectrum, so you're probably going to see quite a few Ocean games, but after a full Ocean set across the board, because their history kind of spans about 15 years, as you probably well already know. I think I've already done this one. Daley Thompson Super Test. Chinese Juggler. The classic Daley Thompson's Decathlon, which I think came out in clam cases as well as a jeweled case. Moon Alert. Classic here. Hunchback. Cosmic Wartoad. Eskimo Eddie. Right, just go through a few clam shells a minute. The awesome Ping Pong. One of the early games that I played that the Vicar copied for me. Eddie Kidd Jump Challenge. Really easy first stage, wasn't it? And the second stage was, my god, it's quite hard actually. Blue Max. I should enjoy this one as well. Jeff Cape's Strongman. When men were real men. This is the first game I ever beat, I think. Or was it? The Rocky Horror Show. Another classic. Saboteur. Footballer of the Year. Ghosts and Goblins. That's the Spirit. Bit of a strange one, that one. Another classic beat 'em up. Yeah Kung Fu. This was brilliant as well. Oh Christ. Tapper. Another Spectrum classic. Spy Hunter. Another Ocean game in a box. Gift from the Gods. They released a few like that, didn't they? This was the first 2 games I ever got for my Sinclair Spectrum when I got it in sort of Christmas '86. I showed you one of the games I got. This was the second one. God knows why I bought this. Jerry the Germ. It's rock hard. But there you go. Quite a recent addition is Mad Balls. Driller. Platoon. Michael Mars. This was a brilliant game, wasn't it? Last Ninja 2. Batman the Caped Crusader. Robocop. Frankie Goes to Hollywood. I never really got the hang of this, but I'd love to sit down one day, read the instructions and play this properly. It was voted as one of the best games ever made for the Commodore 64. The classic Afterburner. Not a bad conversion on the Spectrum, to be honest. I'll be back in 1 second. Right, sorry about that, to go and get some more games. Bit of glare now. Rygar. Solomon's Key. Breakthrough. Outrun. Action Force. Predator. Classic TV show this was, wasn't it, eh? Nightmare. Classic film. Pink Panther. Poor quality box here. Alternative World Games. Arcade conversion of Tiger Road. 720 Degrees. Roadrunner. Arcade screenshots on the back. Now this game I loved. If you liked Cluedo, you'd love this one. Killed Until Dead. What a game. So Psycho Pigs UXB. Hot Shot. ATF. Ace 2. Cybernoid 2. I remember an article in Sinclair User, Dandy versus Druid. That's one half of them. Druid. Never played it. And this is a cracking arcade conversion on the Spectrum. Flying Shark. Dark Scepter. Black Lamp. Marble Madness. Cracking tune in this one. Glider Rider. APB. This has some gorgeous graphics. Garfield, Big Fat Hairy Deal. Super Sprint. Really good arcade conversion. Ninja Hamsters. Another good arcade conversion actually, Buggy Boy. Skate Crazy. This was quite good fun. Tour de Force. Jack the Nipper 2 in Coconut Capers. Not quite as good as the Amiga version, is it? Supercars 2. Say it again, Supercars. Hunchback the Adventure. Second best beat 'em up on the Spectrum. Renegade. Top Gun. Recent addition, this one is Street Hawk. Another quite recent addition is Phantom Club. One of my favourite arcade conversions ever on the Spectrum is Operation Wolf. Mario Brothers. Great graphics, pretty crap game. Red Heat. Gryzor. Combat School. One of the earliest games that I remember hearing an AY chiptune in. I literally loaded it up without even intending to load it on the 128K side, and I was quite pleasantly surprised. Run the gauntlet. Rambo 3. Maelstrom. The New Zealand Story. 128K only game, Where Time Stood Still. They came out on the ST and the Spectrum, I think. Classic this one is. One of my favourite films of all time and all, The Great Escape. Match Day 2. Guerrilla War. Bad Dudes vs Dragon Ninja. This was a cracking game too, actually. Movie. Quite a mundane football game. Super Soccer. That's when games used to be sold down markets, wasn't it? I bought that. I think I bought that from East Street Market. Green Beret. A fantastic conversion that is on the Spectrum. Absolutely brilliant game. Freddy Hardest. The worst of the trilogy, Renegade 3, the final chapter. And the best game, Target Renegade, finest beat 'em up on the Spectrum. Amazing. And that's it, guys, for the games. Sorry, it wasn't too much description in there, but 22 minutes just to describe those games. So I'll see you for the final part. Well, thank you for watching my penultimate 8-bit collection. Like I said, I've got one more left now, which is the Atari 2600, before moving on to some 16-bit goodness. The Atari ST, Commodore Amiga, Sega Mega Drive and Mega CD. Like I said, my Spectrum collection is highly driven by nostalgia. I don't have anything there of any value or anything that's very hard to get hold of or unique, for example. So there are a few titles left to get that are nostalgic. For example, R-Type, Street Hassle, which is quite obscure, Techno Cop, Typhoon, just to name maybe 4 out of 20. And also my full Ocean collection, so there's quite a few Ocean titles left to get as well, like Miami Vice or Firefly or Mutants, and also some Imagine titles like Athena, for example. So there's probably at least 25-30 of those to get as well. So there's still a bit left to get for my Spectrum collection, so stay tuned. Again, thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for subscribing, and I hope to see you real soon. You take care now. Bye bye.